Hello, wonderful fourth graders. Welcome to our grammar lesson 4.5. And today we're learning about words that have multiple meanings. And we're actually going to learn a couple of new words. That's going to be kind of fun. But multiple meaning words are words that have more than one meaning. They're called multiple meaning words because multiple means more than one. So sometimes you're going to hear a word and it could mean one thing and it could mean something else, and you have to figure out which meaning the word has. You'll come across these words all the time in your reading and your writing. For example, I bought a pound of apples. Don't pound on the door. The word pound is in both sentences, but what does pound mean in both sentences? Well, I bought a pound of apples. In this sentence, pound means a measure of weight, how heavy something is. I bought a pound of apples. On the other sentence, pound means don't pound on the door. So the same word can have two different meanings. And pound is an example of a homograph. And homographs are words that are spelled exactly the same way. So if you look at them in those sentences, they look exactly the same. They're spelled the same, but they've got two different meanings. So homo means the same, and graph means writing. So when you come across a homograph, they are words that are spelled exactly the same. They've got the same writing in the words, but they're going to have two different meanings. So here's some more. I have 2 cookies left. Turn left on Main Street. Two different sentences, but left means two different things depending on your sentence. The first sentence, I have 2 cookies left, it's kind of like we're doing subtraction, right? We had some cookies, some were taken away, and we've got some left. So when I think of left in that way, I'm thinking subtraction, kind of. Turn left on Main Street. Well, on that one, left is a direction. We could turn left or we could turn right. So left has two different meanings. So it's a homograph, the word left. And if you're thinking, Mrs. Schofield, how am I ever going to know which meaning it is? You get to figure it out by the context of the sentence. That means you have to read the sentence and think which one makes sense. I have 2 cookies left. Does that mean 2 cookies to the left or to the right? No, because that doesn't make sense. Would it mean I have 2 cookies left like we're talking about subtraction? Probably, because I like to eat cookies, and so that's taking away some of the cookies. So you figure out by the context, that means by the words around that word in the sentence, which one it is, which meaning it has. So let's look at some more. Whoops. She has a diamond ring. Did the bell ring yet? Well, diamond ring, you can see here, is a piece of jewelry. A ring is something you wear on your finger. Did the bell ring? Is that the same kind of ring? No, it's the sound that a bell makes. So one is a piece of jewelry and one is a sound. So it's a homograph because it has the same word. It's written exactly the same, but there's two different meanings. You have to figure out what the meaning is by reading the words around it in the sentence so you can figure out which one it's talking about. She has a diamond sound? No, that doesn't make sense. So it must be the piece of jewelry. Okay, it's up to you to be thinking about what you are reading and make a decision about which meaning makes sense. What makes sense when I am reading this? Okay, now there's some other multiple meaning words that are not homographs that are spelled exactly the same way. These words are called homophones. And these are words that sound exactly the same when you say them, but they've got different meanings. So they're not spelled exactly the same, but they sound exactly the same. Because remember, homo means same and phone means sound. So let's look at some examples. Here's 2 sentences. The first sentence says, he won a teddy bear. The next sentence says, I have 1 younger sister. 1 and 1. They're not spelled the same, but they sound exactly the same. They're homophones. But if we won a teddy bear, that's like a prize. Yay, a trophy. And saying that I have one younger sister, that's a number. So one is about winning something and the other one is a number. Two different meanings, even though those words sound the same. So this time when you're listening, you have to figure out which meaning it is by using the words around it. Okay, he won a teddy bear. He won a teddy bear? Well, that sentence doesn't make sense. I have one younger sister. I won as a prize a younger sister. No, that doesn't make sense. So that helps us figure out the meaning. Okay, so instead of reading and using the words around to figure out the meaning, for homophones, we're listening to the words around to figure out. Here's another couple of homophones. I want to be a teacher. I am allergic to bee stings. B and B sound exactly the same. Now, wanting to be something is talking about a situation that you want to have happen to you. Okay? So wanting to be something, or I am going to be at the grocery store, you're talking about the situation that you're going to be in. Okay? The grocery store is going to be my situation. I want to be a teacher. That's the situation I want to be in. But I'm allergic to bee stings. Well, that's like an insect, flying insect with a stinger. Okay, so when we're listening and we hear bee, we have to figure out which bee it is using the words around it to see what makes sense. Here's another one. I have one pair of clean socks. I ate a pear for my snack. Pear and pear. One pair means two things together, like a pair of socks, a pair of shoes. And then a pear is also a fruit, something that we eat. So they're spelled differently, they mean different things, but they sound exactly the same. So when you hear them, you need to figure out, using the whole sentence around it, using that context, which meaning the word has. So let's look at this one. What is the definition of the underlined word? This is going to give us some practice at seeing a word and having to decide on the meaning by using the sentence around it. The weather was so nice that he decided to eat his lunch in the park. Is it A, to leave his vehicle in a certain place, to park his vehicle, or is it an area of land used for rest and play? Two different meanings for park. We're going to figure out which one it is. And hopefully you're thinking it's B, an area of land used for rest and play. The weather was so nice that he decided to eat his lunch in the park. Okay. Here's another one. Did you know that a bat can eat 1,200 mosquitoes in an hour? Well, is that bat, is it A, a flying mammal, or is it B, a wooden club used in baseball? Did you know that a bat can eat 1,200 mosquitoes in an hour? Does it sound more like a flying mammal or a wooden club used in baseball? Hopefully you're thinking the flying mammal. And yes, it does. We're figuring out the meaning using the words around it, the context of the sentence. Okay, now we're figuring which word to put in this one. There are more something students in our class than female students. Is it A, male, or B, male? And here we've got those homophones that sound exactly the same. But if we're looking at them, one means male as in a boy or man, and the other one, B, is male as in male in the mailbox. There are more male students in our class than female students. It's actually going to be the one that means boy, right? Or men. Okay. The toy store is having a 20% off sale today. Is it A, the sale on a boat, or B, the sale where you get money off things? And you're thinking B, it's when you get money off in a store. So the last thing to think about is that sometimes we have to consider, are multiple meaning words, words that might mean more than one thing, always the same part of speech? Here's an example for you. I saw Mark at the movie theatre. My dad used a saw to cut the wood. Well, I saw Mark at the movie theatre. Saw kind of means to look. And that's a verb because it's a doing or it's an action, something that's been done. My dad used a saw to cut the wood. Well, that's a noun because it's a name of something. So you can see that the same word that has different meanings doesn't have to be the same type of speech. It doesn't always have to be a verb or a noun. So this just tells you fourth graders that when you are reading and writing and listening and speaking, you are going to come across words that have multiple meanings. You might be reading them, you might be hearing them, you might be saying them, you might be writing them. So remember, homographs and homophones are words that could either sound exactly the same as other words, and you have to figure out which meaning it has, or they could be words that are spelled and look exactly the same, and which one has the correct meaning for what you need. And the way we're going to look at this too is we're going to have to do some practice. And you, as usual, have some Google Forms to practice with. There's 2 forms today, part 1 and part 2. And all you have to do for these is figure out which word is the right one to match the sentence. So the first one here you see, what is the definition of that underlined word? You will need to train, so train is the underlined word, the puppy to walk on a leash. Does train mean a group of cars that move on a railroad? That's one meaning of train. Or is it B, to teach? You will need to train the puppy to walk on a leash. Is it A or B? You decide and you just click on A or B, go to the next question. And hopefully you're thinking, well, it's to teach the puppy, right? Because a group of cars that move on a railroad is a train, but when you're talking about training a puppy, you're not talking about the railroad, okay? So then you would go to the next one. My dad likes to listen to light rock when he drives. Does that mean a type of music, or to move or sway? Okay, so you're going to go through and read all of these sentences, and then there's just 2 options to choose from. There are, how many on this? There's a few on form number 1, and then there is part 2. And on part 2, you have just a few questions where there's a blank space in the sentence, and you have to find the correct word to fill the space. The something will hibernate all winter. Beer or beer? Now you have to find the one that's spelled correctly, which is the right spelling for beer. The beer will hibernate all winter. It is going to be cold today, so be sure to wear a coat. Which wear is it? Is it this wear or this wear? Oh, fourth graders, you're gonna have to be thinking. Have you read this book yet? Is it this read or this read? Oh, this is going to be a fun one. So after the video, go and do these 2 Google Forms to practice. The homographs on the homophones for multiple meaning words. Off you go.